Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today we're gonna talk about all of the books that I read in August, which were 9 in total, which was really nice because I managed to get my TBR down 9 books because all of these I read physically and they were all already, well, except for one, they were all already on my TBR. I didn't buy any books in August. So I made quite the progress in my physical TBR, which I'm really happy about. Um, let's start with the first one, which is Effigies, so that I can put it away from me because it is still reeking. I got this secondhand and sadly it doesn't smell particularly great. I think I will actually get rid of the book once we're done with this video because it is just, I don't know, it doesn't smell good. I still read it, but it gave me a lot of headaches while reading it. And I also gave it 2 stars because it wasn't particularly great as a book. Yeah, it's pretty much a horror book about a small town where evil starts to grow and then, you know, everybody suffers for it. But the people in that small town are all kind of bad people anyway. You don't really feel bad for them, really. They all behave really weirdly, and yeah, I didn't really enjoy much of that book. I think the flow of the book did work out quite okay, so that is why I gave it 2 stars, because I don't think it's horrible. The story in itself, coupled with the headaches the book gave me, were just not worth it, I have to say. Like, that is pretty much what I thought about it. But yeah, it's also really old already. It has this like interesting cover, and yeah, I don't really have big opinions about it other than that I didn't enjoy it particularly much. Also, it's by William K. Wells, which you know, just if you want to look it up for yourself, if maybe you want to read it, which, you know, I wouldn't recommend. Maybe don't do that. After that, I read my favorite book by far for the month, and that was The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This book gave me all of the feels. It is also a horror book, and it is about eyes. As you can see, I have the Illumicrate copy. It is wonderful. If you want to get like really pretty horror books, get the Evernight book box from Illumicrate. The book, like, if you open it up, it just looks amazing. I'm so happy with this book. And yeah, the story is pretty much about our main character. I forgot her name and I can't really pronounce it. Ji-won's life. Ji-won is the main character. She has Korean parents and they live in America. And her father, at the beginning of the story, her father splits from her mother, and her mother falls into this hole and is like devastated, you know, because the father just leaves the family just like one day and goes to his probably affair partner, but he goes to his new partner and just lets the family be. They are already pretty like on the poorer side. They live in like a 2-bedroom apartment with like 3 people now. Before that they were 4 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Ji-won shares a room with her younger sister, which is, I think her younger sister is 15 and Ji-won is 18, I think. And yeah, she just started college and it's like a really turbulent point in her life. And then her mother, she wants to get lucky again, and in Korean tradition you eat fish eyes for luck. And so she starts eating fish eyes with her daughters. Were like, oh my god, that is so disgusting, why do you have to do that? And then her mother brings a new man into the life who seems to be kind of like one of those Asian women are the best kind of people who are like pretty racist, but like, I don't know. He's not a nice guy. He's called George, I think. And so yeah, he pretty much worms his way into their lives. And from there on, everything goes down the drain, and Ji-won's life just falls apart at the seams. And she seems to get forgetful, and yeah, life isn't going so great. And then she gets a little bit crazy, and the book has the best ending. I loved the ending so much. It was so fitting, and it was such a, you know, it's not technically a good ending, but it is the perfect revenge ending. And it's so good. It's so good. The men get what they deserve, if you get me. But yeah, it's not like our main character is like the best person out there, you know. She has a lot of character flaws, but they make her really, really human, and to be honest, I rooted for her and I loved her. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars because I felt like some scenes were a little bit more on the awkward side of things, which might be that it's just a difference of lived reality, that I couldn't really connect with some of the scenes. But yeah, they kind of disrupted the reading flow a little bit at times, but other than that, I really loved it. I felt like it had the perfect length. And yeah, it's a good 4.5 stars, and I would recommend it to everyone. The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. Go out there, read it. It's fantastic. Then I continued with the Numa Files series by Clive Cussler, and I read White Death, which is the second one I've read so far. Third one, second one, third one. The third one I read so far. This one was really forgettable, I have to be honest. It is about, well, this time it wasn't about Russia, which the first 2 books I read in the series were America against Russia. This time it has something to do with animal rights activists and whale hunts, and they try to stop the whale hunt. They get a few of the whales away from the people who hunt them, and then their ship rams the ship of some of the organizers of the hunt or something like that. And they trap people inside the ship pretty much, and the animal rights organization is like, we weren't doing that. And at that point, Numa comes in, they rescue the people in the ship, and they realize, okay, yeah, the organization actually didn't do that. It was like remote controlled, and they find like this huge plot about a company trying to get control of the oceans and of the fish population in the oceans, and that is what this book is about. It's a little bit forgettable, but it is an action novel. If you want like just action without really thinking about the story, I would say go for this. But it is a solid action novel, which is why I gave it 3 stars. You know, it feels like a solid read, but it wasn't anything that stood out, you know, if you get what I mean. And then I also read the next part in the Heroes of Olympus series. This is Son of Neptune, which is the second book in the series. And yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. In this one, we get Percy Jackson back. He has lost his memory, and pretty much we have a rerun of the first book, but in a different camp, in like the Greek camp, which is where pretty much the second series kind of seems to play out in. And not the Greek camp, the Roman camp. We get pretty much the Roman version of all of the gods and stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty much a repeat of the first book. I felt like I wasn't really the biggest fan. I gave it 3 stars because it's still a good story, and it's still, you know, it flows nicely. And if you like the first book, I mean, it kind of makes sense that you would like this one because it feels so samey. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed because I feel like the more that I read these series, the more all of the books feel like the same book, and I feel like, you know, you could break up the monotony, like the sameness of the books. You could break that up a little bit and just make the story feel a little bit different, but it isn't what it is. And I mean, if you read the books with like a year apart, which I'm guessing that they came out a year apart, maybe then it isn't as bad. But if you read one a month, I feel like they feel just too similar to really give them anything less than 3 stars at this point. Maybe they will get better as the series goes on, but I'm not holding my breath, to be honest. Then I read my second ever John Grisham book, which is The Summons. It has an interesting topic, but I really disliked the ending, which is why I gave it 3 stars. It started good, but it ended bad, in my opinion. The Summons is about an old judge who is pretty much near dying, and so he summons his sons to go over his will with them and, you know, talk money, talk house, all about that. And before the sons can come to him, he dies actually. And our main character, which is the more successful son from him, he gets there first, and he finds some money that is stashed away at his father's, and he then goes on and tries to find out where the money is coming from, and somebody tries to steal the money. The second brother is pretty much an alcoholic, who tries to get sober for like 15 years and never really does it, and he doesn't have the greatest relationship with his father. And so our main character also kind of tries to hide the money from the brother to, like, you know, he always plans on giving it to him when he gets sober, which is obviously like a questionable thing. But yeah, and then comes the ending, and it made me really dislike the whole story in the end because of the ending. But yeah, I like the beginning. I think the ending is kind of disappointing. I don't really want to spoil you because I think it's still a book reading. I think it's still a book worthwhile reading if you like these like law thrillers, I think is what you would call them. You should still read it. I think it's still a good book, which is why I gave it 3 stars. I was just so disappointed in the end. I don't know. I wish the ending would have been other different. I don't know what exactly I wanted, but not that. Then we have another 2-star read. With this, The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. I cannot understand why people love this book. I finally made my way through it, and I dislike the book. I dislike the story, I dislike the ending. There isn't really anything happening here. I mean, you have a character, Eddie LaRue, who lives for 300 years and she does nothing with it. I mean, yes, she gets forgotten every day by everyone. As soon as people can't see her anymore, they forget her. But she still has such, like, a boring life. She seems like such a boring personality for someone who lived through so much. And she kind of misses all of the important stuff. We don't really go into history, we only talk about her beginning of being immortal and then current times. And we don't get anything from in between. And then we get this really like boring dates, and then we get a really bad ending, in my opinion, because in the end the bad guy wins. Which I won't say anything else about that. But no matter what you think about the ending, in my opinion, it is dumb. It is just dumb. She could have saved herself the whole journey and just at the beginning entered into the arranged marriage that her parents had for her. She never needed to run away and get this whole immortal life, because in the end she doesn't choose different 300 years later, and it really annoys me. I can't get over it, I have to be honest. I disliked it. I think I imagined there to be more magical stuff, but in the end it's more or less a contemporary, with the added factor that she lives 300 years and the devil or whatever the guy is that gave her the immortal life has like a little bit of like a supernatural element. But other than that, it's just a contemporary novel of a girl who in the end gives up her life for a guy once again, even though that is what she ran away from in the beginning. And I don't get why people think it's so good. I don't. I'm really sorry, I don't get why people think it's good. And then we have the next disappointment. That is The Ghost Tree by Christina Henry. I read Alice and the Red Queen by her, and I loved those books. I really, really love them. This one feels like it isn't even written by her. Like, the language is really, really different. We have a lot of over-sexualization, which wasn't in, like, Alice. Which, in Alice, there are aspects from that, but they are, like, really dark aspects, and they are depicted bad, and it isn't this, like, casual over-sexualization that we see in other books, and it is in here as well, which I found to be really weird. Yeah, I was just disappointed with the story. It felt a little bit like a Sleepy Hollow inspired book, but I'm still not sure if that is actually it. And it is not enjoyable. It is way too long. It is a horror book, technically. It is not really, like, it feels more like a murder mystery, like a thriller, pretty much. But it is just not interesting, and you know from the beginning why things are happening, which takes the mystery out of all of it, because you get to know why in like pretty early. Your main character just doesn't. And we have a teenager as the main character who tries to find out what is actually happening. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't enjoyable. It didn't feel like it was written by the author. And in the end, it was way too long, way too boring, and yeah, I wouldn't recommend it actually. I don't think it's a worthwhile read. Really disappointing, because I obviously liked the other ones, and what also makes it more sad is that Alice and the Red Queen, those are older books by Christina Henry, and this one is a newer one, so I'm kind of afraid that I might not like her newer writing style if she maybe changed writing styles. I will still read a few more of her books that I have on my to-buy list, like The Mermaid and the third book in the Alice series, and Lost Boys, I think, is also on my list to buy. But yeah, I'm a little bit afraid that I might not like what she writes nowadays, because it feels really, really, really different to the other books by her, and that was really disappointing. Then we are two books we still have, and the next one is City of Brass, which is also a 2-star read, like the last three. I didn't enjoy this. I don't know. I couldn't really get into it. I think it's too much politics, which, you know, I don't really enjoy politics in books that much. And even though it is a fantasy and has like a lot of fantasy elements, it just felt, I think, too realistic for me if you take like the supernatural out of it. And so I didn't enjoy it in the end. I think it's just not the fantasy for me. I think the author is not for me. I've read a different book by her that I also didn't like. It's by S.A. Chakraborty, if I didn't say it. But yeah, I read a different book by her I also didn't enjoy reading, and this one was simply just the same. So I think I don't mesh with her writing style and the way she tells her stories and the topics she deals with in her stories. I just don't think I enjoy those very much. So yeah, I won't pick up another book by her. I think, you know, it's me. I'm the problem. But yeah, I don't think we work out together, and I don't really have a lot of opinions because it was actually really forgettable to read this book. So in that aspect, I really don't have that many opinions on the book, which, you know, isn't helpful reviewing it, but it isn't that long ago that I read it. It's like 1 week ago, a little bit over a week ago, and I already can remember really little from the book, which isn't great, to be honest. And now we have the last book I read in August, and that was Mr. Murder by Dean Koontz. This was just a random book I picked off my shelves because I was through with my TBR. And I don't know. It's a murder mystery in my opinion as well, and this book is about a main character who is a writer, and he is called Martin, and he has a family, he lives a suburban life, and then one day he gets attacked by a guy who looks exactly like him, who tells him, "You stole my family, you stole my life," and yeah, he tries to kill him, and Martin protects himself and then calls the police and brings his family to safety with the neighbors, and the guy, he shoots the intruder actually, and the intruder just runs away even though he should have been dead. And we also get the intruder's perspective, and he is pretty much a nobody. He doesn't really seem to have a personality or memories, but then he gets drawn to Martin and his family, and he, over the course of the book, he feels like he is the real Martin. And is it Martin? Yeah. And he feels like that the real Martin is an imposter, and so we have a little bit of that in there. And then we get the perspective of some agents who try to bring our attacker in, and our attacker is a hitman, but he technically has other people to kill, like Martin wasn't supposed to be killed, and so this story pretty much goes from there. I think it's really weird that we have this like Christmas inspired thing on here, because it's just because Martin tells a story about Santa to his children, to his girls, but I don't know why it's on the cover. It doesn't really make sense. Either way, I gave it 3 stars, simply because it was really, really predictable from the beginning what will be happening in the rest of the book. There's one interesting thing, and that is why the hitman looks so much like Martin, which we get the answers to in the book, which I think is really, really nice. I like that, but yeah, somehow the neighbors and the police are really incompetent in this book, which made me really angry. And then yeah, it was just really, really predictable, which is why I gave it 3 stars. It has a good reading flow. It is a solid mystery thriller about an author. So if you like that, maybe pick it up and read it. But other than that, I think if you want a thriller with like twists and turns where you don't know where the book is going, this isn't it, because with this one you pretty much know where the book is going. And so yeah, those are all of the books that I read in August, and I'm really happy with that. Sadly, they were more bad books than good books, but you know, it happens, especially since I have so many books on my physical TBR for years now that I don't even know if if I love the genres anymore. So a lot of the time, if I pick a book from my shelf, I might not love the book, but I'm totally fine with that because, I gain more experience what I love and don't love in books with every book that I read, so I'm really happy with that. So yeah, thank you for watching this month wrap up, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!